Hello Internet. This is a Toshiba RD-XS32 DVD recorder. It has a hard drive inside of it, and I'm going to remove the hard drive so that we can copy the recordings off of the hard drive and onto a PC in order to demonstrate a piece of software that's just been recently created that makes that fairly easy to do. Okay, first this is the back side of the RD-XS32. It's got 3 screws here, 1, 2, 3, and then there are 2 screws on either side. So I'm going to remove those very quickly and I'll be right back. Okay, got those screws removed, and now in order to take off the bonnet, this is called it, or the cover, to show you, you have to pry these apart, lift it, and pull that straight out. There's a little lip right there, and it's got some places right here you have to be careful, but they're made of metal so they don't break too easily. These corners are made of plastic though, so you have to be careful that you don't break those when you lift it off. I've done it with a little bit of experience, so I had little risk of actually damaging it. But if it's your first time, you have to be careful, go slow. Just remember to pry the sides apart, lift, and then gently pull, just so that you're aware that you're clear of the plastic mounts before you might possibly break them. Go. This is the hard drive over here. This is the DVD loader or burner, as they call it. These are pieces of cotton tape. Normally they're glued to the top of the drive and they're glued to the top of the DVD burner or to keep the cables from shifting around. But I use like a spudger to just basically push gently on it. The glue is pretty tough, but eventually releases. And then I just folded the cotton tape underneath itself so it taped itself to the cable. So basically it's an IDE connector, and you just gently pry from side to side until it releases. See, just like that. You can fold the cable over, and then it's got a normal Molex connector. You just pull that out. There are 4 screws that hold the drive in place. There are 2 on this side and 2 on this side. They are different sizes generally between the different models of the RDXSs. So you need to try to be sure to put the same screws back into the same place. Because on one side they're smaller, on the other side they're larger. And if you get them reversed, then they'll be really tough to tighten down. And if you put the small screws in big holes, they won't tighten down properly. So you just need to remember to put the same screws back into the same location. Okay, got those 4 screws out, 2 on the outer side, 2 on the inner side. They came from here and here. Then we just lift the drive out. There's nothing else holding it. There's the digitizer board down there. Of course, you don't want to jerk it out or bang it around. You don't want to damage any of the connectors, but it's fairly well spaced, so you won't bump into things if you're fairly careful. And it's just a normal hard drive. I don't bother taking this chassis off. There's no need to. You'll be able to hook it up to your PC through the IDE connector and the Molex connector. Don't mess with these connectors, these jumpers right here. They decide if it's cable select master or slave, and depending on the model, it can be one or the other, so you just don't need to mess with it. It'll be fine in your PC. Okay, welcome to the inside of a really old XP PC, and this is the hard drive from the RD-XS32 IDE connector. Usually I set it on top of a USB powered fan just to keep it cool. It's got these rubber garments on here. This is an AC Infinity, which you can get off Amazon or something like that if you feel like you need it. So I just set that on top so while it's sitting out here and it's running, it can stay cool, doesn't overheat. Take a Molex connector. Have a modular power supply, so it's convenient to set it out here. Put that on top. IDE connector. Just plug it in. And then just power up the PC. Okay, the hard drive's been installed, which we can see by going to the disk management tool. We're going to tell it to cancel because we don't want it to initialize the new RD-XS32 hard drive that's been placed into this PC. We can see that it's recognized as an unknown disk that's uninitialized. It's about 80 gigabytes, but it shows up as 74.53 gigabytes on this tool. I have one other hard disk in this system. It's for the operating system, and it's currently partitioned into 2 partitions that show up enumerated as the C drive and the E drive. Okay, since Windows doesn't recognize the partitioning scheme or the file system on this hard drive, we're going to have to use a third-party tool in order to view it. That tool is going to be an alpha version of IsoBuster, which now has the ability to read Toshiba RD-XS drives. So basically, once you download it, you'll get this alpha binary. You'll install it. You'll be given the opportunity to sign up for a trial, which will fully activate it for a number of days, or you can actually make a purchase of a copy and then it will be permanently activated. When you run the tool, IsoBuster will automatically scan your system for drives that it recognizes the partitioning scheme and file systems on, and it will enumerate them in this drop-down list right here. It takes a little bit of time when it's working with drives that are somewhat unusual because it has to perform different types of calculations in order to properly present them. Okay, this is asking if you want to perform an automatic update check for IsoBuster. We're just going to cancel that. Okay, so the Seagate 380012AC hard drive is the one from the RD-XS32. Again, it's reporting the same thing as Windows reported. It does recognize the partitioning scheme, and basically it recognizes in that partition, 00 partition, there is a UDF file system, and a UDF file system is fairly common. However, IsoBuster's got a particular tweak added to it that allowed it to see the RDXS, such that normal UDF viewers on XP or Windows 7 or other versions of Windows would not normally be able to see this partition. It's not encrypted, but it's somewhat unusual because of the precise microcontroller that they used in that model of DVD recorder. So when you open the UDF file system, you can see these folders, and these folders list files that are fairly common to VR recording formats. They're not precisely what you would see on a DVD RAM, for example. However, IsoBuster's been taught in order to interpret them properly. And when it interprets the information in those files, it produces VR recordings in a subfolder off the IFO subdirectory here, and it lists them. Within the brackets are the actual meta information, the title that was actually given by the user when they made that recording. In this particular case, these weren't timed recordings or EPG generated recordings, so they don't really have very much metadata except for the date and timestamp of when they were actually recorded and which line input was actually used in order to make that recording. They do contain MPG format information, however, because they are VOB format files, they may contain additional information beyond that of MPGs. When you extract one of these files, you can choose to extract the VOB raw, or you can extract it and put it through a filter that only pulls out the MPEG frames, which is a little bit more compatible with a lot of other media playback tools. However, if you understand what a VOB is, you might want to just go ahead and extract that and play it back in something like VLC. So when you go to extract it, it's going to ask you where do you want to put it. We're going to just create a separate folder here for it real quick. Okay, and that's going to extract the entire recording. So it's going to take a little bit of time here, but it does give you a progress bar, gives you an update of how far it's gotten into actually copying it off to the PC. And this one is 3.47 gigabytes. Okay, various recordings are going to be longer or shorter, as you can see. We have tested this. When you delete recordings, it resequences them so that they're always kept in a linear order from 1 to whatever the number of the recordings are. That is, if you went in and deleted like a 2 or 4 or 6, it would close up ranks and renumber all the subsequent recordings such that they would still be in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you use the navigator on one of these recorders and you're trying to figure out which recording you actually want to copy off onto your PC, it's best that you annotate or write down on a piece of paper exactly which recording you're interested in copying off onto your PC, so that when you get in here you'll know which one to go to. Other than that, you can try to determine it from the metadata, or if you've got a large enough hard drive, you can just select everything and extract everything all at once onto your hard drive and then sort it out over on the PC. So we're at about 60% extraction here. It should be done in just a moment. As far as editing chapters,
and resequencing segments of a recording. That doesn't seem to have been very well supported, copying it back to the hard drive. It was really intended for creating resequenced segments to be recorded off. For example, if you're trying to delete commercials, for recording it off onto a DVD-R or a DVD-RAM, if you try to record it back to the hard drive, even the original device doesn't handle that very well. So I just caution you about that. Okay, so we've extracted it. And if we just go to our hard drive, our PC's hard drive, we'll see it exists right here. Okay, and then you can right click on it and you can open it with a number of media player tools that you currently have. Okay, and now just to demonstrate that we can play this recording back. So this was a PBS recording off of KAMU, or local PBS station. You can strum through it. We can view the codec information, and it's 720 by 480, 29.97, 420 YUV, 48 kilohertz, 192 kilobits per second bitrate.
One show that tells you.
There we go.